Alright, so today, unfortunately, I am upstairs meeting with Mr. Spencer, and therefore, I have video notes again. I know how much you love video notes, but the good news is today I made copies of them for you, so all you have to do is follow along. Today we're going to talk about functions that have a base other than e. So we've been talking about natural log functions. Today they might be log base a, or they might be log base 7, or log base 10, the common log. Doesn't matter. If you look up there at the top, anything raised at a to the x power is just going to become the natural log of a times a to the x. So the a to the x just repeats again. And you write the natural log of just the a, avoid the x. Then the derivative of a to the u, sorry about the bell, would be the natural log of a again, times a to the u, times the derivative of u if u is anything other than 1. Log base a of x is going to be 1 over the natural log of a times x. And log base a of u is going to be 1 over the natural log of a times u times the derivative of u if u is anything other than just a constant. So, here are some examples. Y equals 2 to the x. Then y prime, when we take the derivative of that, is going to be the natural log of 2 times 2 to the x. So the natural log of a times a to the x. Y equals 2 to the 3x. Well, now that's that 2 to the u kind of thing. So that's going to be the natural log of 2 times a to the u, 2 to the 3x, times the derivative of 3x, which is just u. And the last one there, hopefully you can hear me over Mr. Spencer, the log base 10 of the cosine of x, so we threw a trig in there just to make it a little trickier, is y prime equals 1 over the natural log of 10 times the cosine of x times the derivative of that u, which is negative sine of x. And we could rewrite that one to be, put the negative sign on the top. If we do that, we'd get negative sine of x over the cosine of x times the natural log of 10. And hopefully when you see the sine of x over the cosine of x, you instantaneously think about the trig identity, that the sine of x over the cosine of x equals a tangent. So that's going to be negative, the negative sign can stay there with the 1, over the natural log of 10 times the tangent of x. Don't forget, you have to know your trig identities for the AP test. Lots of them. The double angles, the Pythagoreans, the half angles. Now is the time, if you have not started studying those, to get going on that. Part 2 in just a minute. Alright, our second part of the notes here. The very first thing we have at the top of the page then is integration for anything that's a log base anything but e, like the integration of 2 to the x. Just like before, if you add it to the e to the x, it was the natural log of x. This is just 1 over 2, the natural log of 2, times a to the x, times 2 to the x, plus c. So note, when we're talking about limits, though, for that, if we're talking about the limit of, as x approaches infinity, of 1 plus 1 over x to the x, or the limit as x approaches infinity of x plus 1 over x to the x power, both of those are going to equal e. That is just a special side note and something, if you are taking the AP test, that you should memorize, or at least have a good guess. Like, if I see the limit of something with things that I am not sure how to deal with it, just make it an e. Inverse trig functions. Remember that inverse is switching the x and the y. Remember that from either your Algebra 2 or especially those of you who had pre-calculus. So to find the inverse of something, I just swap the x and the y value. So y equals the arc sine of x if and only if, that IFF, if and only if. The sine of y equals x. So we just switch that. So the arc sine then is the inverse sine. Y equals the arc cosine of x if and only if the cosine, that should be cosine, not cos, y equals x. Y equals the arc tangent of x if and only x, the tangent of y equals x. Y equals the arc cotangent of x if and only if the cotangent of y equals x. So you see what all we're doing there is switching our x's and y's. The derivatives for the inverse functions are things you are going to have to memorize again. So the derivative then of the arc sine of u is going to be u prime over the square root of 1 minus u squared. Those are also on your inverse, or excuse me, your integrals, there we go, that's the word I'm looking for, and derivative sheets. that you already have. So take a look at those on the notes that we printed for you today. And we have just a couple on the next page. Sorry about the low budget filming here. Those are the rest of them. Those 6 you will have to memorize. Arcsine, arccosine, arctangent, arccotangent, arcsecant, and arccosecant. To be able to solve those, then, you're going to have problems like the derivative of the arcsine of 2x. And you're just going to plug that into the formula. So on the top, let's find it here. You see that this is your u prime. Well, if u is 2x, u prime is 2, your derivative of that. And that's the square root of 1 minus 2x, and that as part of the formula is squared. So you'll look for your formula for the derivative of the arcsine. You'll find your u here. U is 2x, du is 2, and you just plug it into the formula. The formula that was on your last page here. Here's my derivative on the top, 1 minus u squared. My u was 2x, so it's 2x squared. 2x squared. We just plug it in. And here we just went ahead and squared. 2x squared is 4x squared. The second example on your sheet today, the arctangent of 3x. Again, the u is 3x and the du is 3. We go back to the formula. Again, on the bottom of the page before, it's going to be u prime, or the derivative of u, over 1 plus u squared. So in this case, it's going to be the derivative, the du, 3 over 1 plus u squared, and u squared is just 9x squared. These are really simple as long as you know the formula, but if you don't memorize your formulas, you will not do well on that. So find a way to do that memorization. And the last one, again, we just have a sign with a u. So u is going to be x to the 1/2. Du then is going to be 1/2 x to the negative 1/2. So the du goes on the top over 1 minus u squared. Well, u to the 1/2 times raised, to the second power is just x. So we can go ahead and finalize that one. We can put the 2 on the bottom. This 2 moves to the bottom here. X to the negative 1/2, we move down to the bottom to get the square root of x, times 1 minus x. And that x again is because x to the 1/2 squared is just x. And then you could finally rewrite that. You could distribute this x to the 1 and this x square root of x here to get 2 times the square root of x minus x squared. But you wouldn't have to go that far, just if it was a multiple choice problem. So we're just going to try a few today, 378, 41, 43, 47, and 55. Your job today is to memorize your trig identities and your inverse signs, as well as your logs to any base, e, a, 10, doesn't matter. So when you get done with your 4 little problems today, your biggest job is going to be to work on memorizing all those formulas you need for the test in 2 weeks. Hope you had a great day. Text me if you have any questions.